What's going on, guys? Aarava here. Welcome back to my Let's Talk F1 series. This is a part of the series where I get to talk about real-life Formula 1 over the course of a season. And this, as you can see, is for pre-season testing number 1 at Barcelona. And I've called this video Tech Bites basically because I'm going to be showing you guys any kind of new things that people have brought to their cars over the course of pre-season testing. But it might not necessarily be everything that every car has brought. It's just going to be things that I've looked at and things I've found really interesting to me personally. So there might well be different kind of parts that other teams have brought that I've not covered in this video. It's just going to be a case of these are the ones that I found the most interesting and really wanted to talk to you guys about. So we're going to start off with the reigning world champions Mercedes, and they have been busy this preseason testing, not only a lot of laps, but also some really awesome new technical things they brought to their car. The first of these things is an absolutely awesome looking barge board that Mercedes have brought to their car. People have called it many different things: daggers on the floor, daggers on the barge board, or like a tractor combine harvester front or anything like that. But essentially, as you can clearly see in the picture right now, as I've highlighted it on the left hand side, you can see where the barge board normally is. It's still very much kind of in the barge board shape, but they've got lots of slots, not even slots, they've got separate pieces of carbon fiber all going through, making the shape of a traditional barge board, but they're not actually connected together. Now in the past you've seen teams like Ferrari, Williams, even Mercedes themselves have little cuts in their barge board, little slot gaps in their barge boards, and those are to cut drag essentially. It lets the flow pass straight through the gap instead of actually following the path of the barge board, which in turn obviously makes the air go kind of directly more towards the rear. It reduces a bit of drag. So they basically cut the barge board into lots of little slices and have kind of arranged them in the same way to kind of have the profile of the barge board, but they're all kind of dagger-like walls that allow some air to pass through, so they're really cutting drag in that area. At the same time, this potentially could give the actual air more surface to actually flow through, because instead of having one huge surface area for the barge board, they have all these multiple tiny little surface areas, so any air that actually goes through the gaps will be potentially a bit more concentrated, maybe a little bit more neatened up, I'm guessing. They've also extended these kind of daggers to the floor of the car as well. Unfortunately, this picture you can't see it because it's covered up by the front suspension, but if you continue all along on the right hand side towards the edge of the floor there, towards the right hand side of the picture, the floor has actually got some daggers as well. Like, they're not as big as the barge board pieces because obviously the barge board has its own dimensions that it can't pass or get bigger by, but on the actual floor itself they've got some smaller daggers going along the edge of the floor and going on the underside of the floor. So I thought a very, very cool piece of little tech that Mercedes have brought to their new car, and very reminiscent of the actual, if you remember, the futuristic concept car that Mclaren thought of back when lots of teams were kind of just doing concept arts and kind of crazy designs for what they thought future Formula 1 cars will look like. Mclaren brought this kind of design that had these sort of daggers all along the floor on the front and the rear as well. Obviously the diffuser has these sort of daggers along the floor. The actual diffuser itself, you know, is made up of these sort of like dagger kind of walls coming out of the actual diffuser themselves. But McLaren had designed this kind of crazy thing where it came off the front as well, and this is the exact sort of same thing that Mercedes have almost brought. If we also move your attention upwards towards the picture, you can see in between the actual side pod and the upright that comes up from the floor, they've got this extra little winglet that comes out and will affect airflow, because air is basically being channeled from the front wing, from the front of the car, through this kind of whole area. You know, it gets affected by the barge board. Anything on top either goes to the left into the actual side pod itself for cooling, or it gets affected by this kind of space, this kind of area in between the side pod and this upright. And obviously they want to try and affect the flow a little bit more with this winglet. So a nice little addition to that. They've had that since the beginning of preseason testing. And finally for Mercedes, they brought a brand new nose cone, an entire new kind of nose structure. We thought we might get this on a Wednesday, but actually we've only got it today on a Thursday. So I'm really happy that they have finally brought it so I can actually show you it. Essentially Mercedes have sort of twisted the pylons for the actual nose attaching to the main plane in the front wing. The actual pylons are twisted inwards at the front, so they make a smaller kind of area that the flow can actually go through underneath the nose, and they've twisted the back part outwards and kind of inwards underneath and curled it underneath the nose. You can see it's also got, as people have sort of coined it sometimes, a pregnant kind of nose, because it's got a really distinctive bump right underneath the nose that kind of curves upwards underneath the car, and that's going to really help air attach to that surface, that curved surface. It's going to attach to the flow there and going to get really lifted up behind the nose, and they're doing that because they've got, finally, Mercedes have installed their new S-duct, and they've got the actual slot gap for the S-duct underneath the car right there in a really nice streamlined way. So they really need to try and get as much air curving around that little pregnant bump going into the actual slot for the S-duct. You can see the slot right there on the right hand side. I've kind of circled it. I'm not actually too sure from these pictures, but I think it may actually go under the entire nose and width of the actual nose cone itself, not just two little slots on either side. I think it may be more of a kind of wide slot underneath the entire car. The actual mounting of the new Mercedes nose is right to the edge of the main plane, so they've got this entire area in front of the actual nose tip itself that is just free for the flow to actually hit and get affected by. And teams are always trying to get advantage on this because obviously it's a actual dimension that is kind of governed by the FIA, so they're trying to always get an advantage of what they can actually work with. Here you can see where the S-duct is, a very, very sleek and nice designed S-duct, and as I mentioned before in many other videos, if you want to go check that out, I think I explained basically how an S-duct actually works in the Toro Rosso video, so if you are confused on what the S-duct is and how it works, I explained it in the Toro Rosso video, but there it is, very nice and sleek design of the Mercedes nose, really works well, the actual paneling. You can clearly also see there below the kind of green arrows I've done, you can actually see the actual panel where the actual S-duct fits in there. So moving on from one nose to the other, the Renault team finally brought their new nose. Up till now, they pretty much had the exact same nose from last year's Abu Dhabi Grand Prix when they were known as Lotus, and they have the exact same front wing as the one they ended in Abu Dhabi. They still have the same front wing bits, but the actual nose part itself has changed. As you can clearly see, it's now no longer a kind of completely flat kind of wedge at the front. They've brought that up. It's kind of a mixture between the thumb nose like McLaren and Ferrari and the Mercedes nose, because you can clearly see that shape where the kind of it makes two upside down U's and it has that kind of little nub coming out of the actual main part of the nose cone, but at the same time it's a very narrow nose. They haven't gone for a very wide one like Ferrari or Mercedes, so kind of a mixture between the two. And again, like Mercedes, they've also tried to kind of put it as far back as they can on the main plane, but again, the Mercedes have done absolute wonders. I don't know actually how they've done that, but they've literally got it on the edge. Lotus have tried their hardest, but obviously Mercedes have literally just got the perfect right on the edge of the back of the main plane. Obviously, you would expect a team like Mercedes, the top reigning world champions, to have some clever people to figure out how they're actually going to make that happen and make that stay put. Because you're thinking about the actual forces going through the front wing, there's a lot of like kind of flexural forces, the actual nose kind of part attaching to the main plane has to withstand. So very awesome for Mercedes to actually get that working. But Lotus have tried their best to bring it back as forward as they can, and they've also extended the actual pylon a bit back there. You can see they're kind of in a curving fashion, and then goes to a really thin part of the actual nose cone itself going upwards towards the EMC squared sign. Apart from that though, some of you guys have been asking if I'm going to be doing a Renault team Let's Talk car analysis video. I probably will save it till later because actually, to be completely honest, apart from the actual roll hoop and the airbox of the Renault car, not a lot has changed from last year. It's a very, very simplistic car, and you're actually seeing that they really have their work cut out for them to really bring some big updates to actually make the car a bit faster. But of course, like Red Bull, a lot of it is dependent on their engine as well. Moving on to Williams, another car I haven't done a Let's Talk yet. I'm hoping that their new nose cone will come in the second testing. If not, I will wait until Melbourne to do an actual full analysis of the car. But you can see a nice overhead shot here of the Williams, and I've kind of marked in green the huge kind of like wing section, or vane section if you will, coming out the side pods and going across over the actual suspension arms and copying what Mercedes have done. Mercedes have had this and now Williams are trying to copy it. It's another way they can affect airflow at the back of the car. And also, it's not a new thing, but I also like the little detail of the Williams at the back towards the rear tyre, that rear left tyre. You can see this the kind of actual winglet that comes up really kind of about 3/4 of the height of the actual rear tyre, and trying to affect more flow in that kind of section between the rear tyre and the rear wing. Like I've mentioned before, the slot gaps are also trying to do that, creating that vacuum effect that really makes the diffuser work well. And then finally, moving on to Ferrari, the exact same thing, just a nice little bit of detail. It's not actually new on the Ferrari as well, but just again a nice little detail that I didn't mention in the videos before, because obviously at the launch spec they don't actually have these little bits on the car. But again, a nice shot of the Ferrari car from overhead. You can see the nice little curving winglet this time. Instead of the Williams where it goes flat, Ferrari curve it back in an upside down U shape there to affect the airflow. And again, you can see those slot gaps, just 3 of them, but there are many more there back there on the Ferrari. But that has been Tech Bites for the preseason testing number 1. If you guys have enjoyed the video, hit that like button, let me know what you thought. If you're new around here and you did enjoy this video, then do subscribe for more videos like this in the upcoming 2016 Formula 1 season, and also weekly videos including gaming videos on Formula 1. Guys, that has been the video for today. I hope you enjoyed this kind of new concept of kind of Tech Bites on preseason testing, just little things that I find personally interesting over preseason testing. You guys should definitely keep a lookout on this channel for later today. There will be a very, very interesting video coming up later today that you guys really might enjoy, so stick around for that. Keep your eyes peeled. But I've been Aarava, I hope you enjoyed today, and I hope to see you guys next time. Goodbye.